Jeremy Harper here. So I just want to talk about getting on the same page financially as a couple. This week, I got off the phone to a client. We discussed a bit of a strategy around the next property acquisition. And then at the end of the conversation, they said, yep, let me run that by through my partner. And typically as a mortgage broker, quite often I'll be dealing primarily with one person from that partnership. But it's really important in the background that both those partners have the buy-in around the strategy and making sure you're on the same page financially. And so what I mean by that is big advocate of making sure that we are running through a bit of a balance sheet to understand exactly as a partnership where you are sitting today. And that could be going through and discussing things like what liabilities you've got. Perhaps someone has some HECS loans, some unsecured debt, car loans, credit cards outstanding. Do we need to get on top of those first as a partnership? And then what are your goals? So quite often people do have different goals. One might have, the future family home is their number one priority. Maybe it's a renovation, maybe it's expanding out their portfolio or investing in other assets or starting a business, and making sure that when you align those goals, that actually you're on the same page. And I think, quite often people can get into a transaction, maybe it's a property transaction, and they haven't given that thought, or they've put their goals behind the other partner's goals and they haven't discussed that. So making sure before you actually commit to that property purchase or what that transaction looks like, that you've actually sat down, you've laid out your cards on the table, you've done a balance sheet as a couple and said, this is where we sit today, this is what we both want to achieve, and then making sure that we're actually aligning those goals, because I think that's really important. If you're not having those hard discussions initially, that can be quite costly in the short term and actually take away from trying to achieve some of your goals. So just thought I'd share that.